and Nihama, and Kung Hai Fat Choi,
Gongsi
Wen, Melbourne Punter Show. Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Melbourne Punter Show. It's been a very interesting weekend. Happy Chinese New Year. It's the year of the fire monkey. Boys, there's plenty to talk about this week with the happenings over the weekend.
Racing never lets us down, does it?
Here we are.
We've got Darren Potter.
Oh no, I want a Mandarin, thanks.
We've got Darren Potter, Dan Kelly and Racetrack Ralphie as normal. And boys, Twitter was abuzz on Saturday with...
Sky Channel.
Well...
Is this what is this?
This was and then the follow-up interview from their CEO in his sort of aggressive mood yesterday, and then an interesting article that was in the Financial Review. I'll try and dig the figures up while you guys have a chat about how you guys found.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to do the whole of part 2 on the 30-minute gaps and in-play betting fiasco. So let's not get bogged down on that until we get to it, because that's going to take plenty of time itself. So let's have a quick go over the weekends and the last week's stuff before we get into it. And before we start, I just want to say to my subscribers and people that are thinking of ever looking at my set, every time we do well, an article pops up on the website and we're willing to cop that. So when we have a bad day, we've got to cop that too. So we ran second all day there on Saturday. We seemed to find one better in most of the races, and it was a tough day. We lost about 6.5% of our bank, and that's a setback, but we'll be right. We'll bounce back. We'll do all the right things, back the right horses at the right prices, and we'll be sweet. So
in the truth chair, because I had to sit there with you on Baby, for instance, what did you think? It was just one of those days where it just didn't go my way, or do you think I should have zigged when I ended up zagging? Because that's what we do as punters, aren't we?
Definitely. Often, Ralph, it's a good question, because there are often days when I win, when I think, geez, I should have got a lot more out of the day than I did, right? And there are other days when you lose, when you just think you made so many mistakes. I found doing the form for last day a bit tough, because it's one of those crossover meetings when you've got a lot of...
That was my first thought.
You got a lot of fresh horses, a lot of dead form mixing in together.
And that was really, in the Manford, was that race, wasn't
it? Yeah, it was a good example of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone landed on... Golden Spin. We took over $4 early in the week, which was the right thing to do, and we didn't win. So,
yeah.
Look, in hindsight, there was one race I'm particularly filthy about.
Yeah.
The 1,000-metre race. I found the right form line and backed Runsati when I should have backed all 3 horses from that form line.
Yeah.
And there was good reasons to back Runsati, Shakespearean Lass, and even Trevenda. And I'm filthy myself for not backing all 3 horses. Apart from that, the rest of it just, it was one of those days where things just didn't roll our way.
And I reckon if you're fair income, sometimes you'll get those days and you'll say, you know what, my methodology was right, it was consistent, true to myself, and fucking things just didn't go my way.
Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a war we're in. We're in a long-term war of trying to win at this caper. And there's all the little battles every week, and you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you've got to stay the course and know what you're doing's right and pack yourself in, and it happens, Potts. And
interesting about the changeover meeting theme that you said, I actually found myself on course.
Did you?
Second time in 15 months, behind glass. And the lady said, what's the main race today for, I don't know, whatever she was going to say. Oh, it's a good question. So I couldn't actually, I say that's the strongest race today.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't, and I'm so-called the expert in the room, and I said, well, look, there's a big prize money 2-year-old race which actually isn't much good, and there's an odds-on favourite which won't get much interest, and there's sort of so it was that weird sort of meeting, and the figures actually came out that it was actually so there'll be 20 horses that will go better than probably the best horse this week.
It was it was a very vanilla day. Yep. All the races were run at benchmark or a bit above in terms of overall time. You know what I mean? There was no standout time on the day. So,
and is he back? In the last end camp?
Oh, he's back.
Money for it?
Like,
I knew that I was officially gone before this. I knew I'm cursed, but when that happened, I go, we're just...
I looked and looked.
Yeah.
Trying to see why it was 40s to 15s.
We're talking about
Written in the last, 3 wide there, was fit and everything, but I was going back to camp on fire,
Yeah.
His horses are flying. They're all running to their best, and The robots love consistency and things like that, and they tune into this, the bloke who had
Well,
how many winners from his last 10 or 12 runners.
He had a very big week, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had a very big week.
Oh, do you want to talk about that race?
I would just, my look at that race is that it's a mares race. There, a lot of the, some of the big players are always looking for the left fielders in those races because they're so winnable. There's never, like, it's so
There's some
more. I mean, like the mare I found, Fast Approach, had the course and distance mare in form stamp, but she was really beatable.
Right.
She was ripe for the picking, and the other ones, Whistle Baby and Mrs. President from Gate 1, they were all ripe. They were just all.
Wasn't the only.
Whistle Baby, you reckon that wasn't friendless? That's as
Yeah.
friendless as I've seen for a horse who had the right form.
Yeah, so they were looking outside of the market, and if you assessed Written on a best, she was in the race, but it wasn't easy to do.
But I see they backed some other middle pinner, like Marley Magic as well backed, another middle pinner.
Pindan Pearl.
Pindan Pearl was very well expected to run well.
But there was 3 fast horses in the race. Whistle Baby, they already said, oh, we're going to go back because they went forward. In a fast race, an open company, so all they had to do was do what Ben Allen did on Sunday, just let it put there and say, "Rrr." So I'm talking about why this was probably back. As you say, the camp's on fire and it's going well, so it's going well enough. Change your tactics, Marley Magic.
It went back as well.
That's what I'm saying. So it goes from 3 fast horses to 1.
Yeah.
So Ritten's got there 5 to 10 lengths slower than she's capable of. Well, she just had a draw. And from there...
You reckon the market shied away from the jockey change on Whistle Baby as well? So he's only ever had 3 jockeys on him in his whole 28 starts, which are Wayne, Chris Simons and Caitlin. All of a sudden,
well, it's funny
there's a kid on.
Yeah.
And
I thought the kid's been, actually looked at the stats, Dylan, and he's been riding some winners. I thought, good, he's got his confidence up. But then it was like the old reflection thing. Well, 2 things. The reflection thing was, right, they said, we're going to go back because it didn't work going forward. In other words, they didn't actually look at the map properly.
Yeah.
They just went, we have to go back, even though went from a fast race to a slow race. And 2, when you tell a kid that, well, you can't expect subtlety.
No, that's right.
That's fair enough. But so I think the smarter players just look at the map rather than...
And it was right, they were right. They
Spot
were
on.
right. They were spot on. He didn't give it much hope, but he wasn't there to
But
where it was in the run.
The other thing I think is important, me, whatever, if we put our stuff out, it's our thoughts at 8 o'clock in the morning, or whenever you post it, right, or we post it. And that's the wisdom of the crowd, the pre-race market intelligence was saying, no, Written's come into play, then you've got to start asking yourself, why? And as I'm saying, it wasn't until afterwards you think, right, well, Marley Magic changes tactics. I am being hindsight, Harry, but this is what we're saying. We're going to learn more on reflection, aren't you?
Yeah.
And so whatever your thoughts are in the morning, and Written came off a plain run, but we all know that at her best, she's good enough to win that race.
Right,
probably win it a lot easier than she did.
Yeah, as painful as it is, though, I'm even at the point when she's backed into $15. If someone puts up $26 or $34, I'm still not going to take it. I'm happy to let those sort of mares beat me.
Okay.
And just over the
Burn a fast approaching, so
yeah.
it was rock solid, but attached vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. Being on fast approaching $5 in that race to me was a good idea, and I have no regrets about that bet. So what we're talking about here is tactics and betting and riders and all that stuff, and we all put a lot of work into it, and nothing wrong with us analysing all aspects of it. I'm sure our viewers probably enjoy it. But on Saturday morning, I listened to the RSN, and Matty Stewart asked David Gately. He said, Gator, there's been some criticism around for Ollie's ride on second bullet, not weekend just gone, the weekend before, when he didn't make it a test from the 1,000 metre mark or the 800 metre mark, and and Tashby outsprinted him, is basically what happened. And Matt Stewart said, what do you make of that criticism, Gator? And Gator's words were, and I'll paraphrase here as near as I can get, he said, there's a lot of mug punters out there that as soon as they don't win, look for an excuse, and the easiest one is to blame the rider. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it, was Gator's, that's what he said.
So it's shot across the bow?
Yeah.
So is he having on us?
Well, I don't know. I assume that from Gator's pulpit looking down, that we are mug punters. There's a slight difference between you and me though, Gator. I put units to all my bets, mate, and I'm happy to cop to the results. I've never seen you put any units towards your bet, Skater. But anyway...
But I think it must have been, because no one else, there wasn't any criticism on, I mean, it was in-depth analysis that came up with the criticism.
Yeah.
It wasn't straight after the race people said, oh, how's he doing?
Yeah.
You know?
So the question is, boys, now that we've had a bit of a chastising from the Guru Gately, should we stop talking about jockeys on this show? What do you think, Ralph?
Well, let's start with the facts. Right, the facts are the nice way to start, I always think, and then you go to opinions. So the facts were New Year's Day second bullet was fast to the 800. 16th of January he was slower, and then 2 weeks later he was slower again. I don't see how anyone could possibly argue with that, but they're facts. Because actually that's between A and B, and we're all talking about Flemington 2000. So...
What was the beauty of why we could compare that? Because it was apples to apples.
Yeah.
Basically it was.
So that's the fact. So then it comes to opinion. So the opinion then is, did going that make him go well? He won and he won well, and then he won well from there, and then he got beaten a nose. So our opinions, and we were a consensus, and it is a bit boring when we all agree with each other, but in this case we did. We've argued on many points. So we deducted that because, or deduced, or whatever that big word is, that when you were going this quick, compared to having worked well that quick, that was a negative. That was our opinion. But it was opinion based on fact. What I want to know is, because I didn't hear it, did David mention any facts other than saying that he's sick of people criticising jockeys?
I think David's sick of the sound of anyone's voice but his own. That's what I think.
Well, just knowing, not knowing, I don't know Gator, but seen his form and listened to him on the radio and on the TV, and he loves late sections.
Yeah.
Loves them. Like he's nearly the biggest advocate of strong
flashing
light. So I'm thinking that Ollie's got himself in a position to run these last 423, saying, well, if something's going to beat me, it's got to break 23, which is what Tashby did, ran over 22.9 or something.
Yeah.
But we're saying he should have been put himself in that position anyway. You know, he should have been out making it a test of Tashby, but I think he rode, just on reflection, it was what you said, or someone said, I think he was riding a race to beat Real Love.
Yeah.
That's
what Potts said.
Yeah, he was worried about the D wheel, was making a slow pace for it, and he's overcooked it.
So, David had one crack at me when I was on RSN, and I had a crack back, and I assumed he was having a crack at me because he said, he filled in on a Sunday, I was on the Monday at the time, and he said, some inverted commas formatalists think that it's the jockey's fault if they get it wrong. And I assumed it was me, and anyway, so... Knowing my style, I just did 15-20 minutes on it on the Monday. So I figured on the off chance I was wrong, I would have heard, and I didn't. And then New Year's Day, Shane Anderson wasn't working, so I listened for a fair bit of it. And David did another one about, he mentioned that again. So he's got this bee in his bonnet. Now, David, I'll flip this around to you, and then it's up to you, and I'll never be personal if you're not personal. And to me, you're not being personal. You're just saying that people shouldn't criticise jockeys, and I'm playing the ball as well. I have never heard you criticise a jockey ever, and I've heard a fair bit of your work on air, on TV or radio. I've never ever heard you criticise a jockey. So the question for me, to you, and to anyone else there at Racing.com or Sky Channel or anyone else is, how can you be fair income when you're analysing any sport, footy, NRL, cricket, golf, anything, and you're saying we are being objective, we're analysing what's happening, and not criticising one of the sports people? In this case, we're talking about horse racing. In this case, we're talking about decision making. Now, we've never criticised, and you'd be an imbecile to criticise the courage, or the toughness, or the Spartan lifestyle of a jockey.
Yeah.
All we ever talk about is tactics because we've got self-interest in it, and because if they get it right and we get it right, there's a fair chance to win money, or we might have read the race wrong. One or two. But in trying to have a crack at us, or anyone else who says, I'm sick of mug punters, well, as you said, your work's accountable, my work's accountable, your work's accountable, you feed your family out of it. Where's the accountability of anyone in the racing media, be it the newspaper guys or anyone else, saying, well, this is what I did do? Because post-race, as we used to on Carnival, we'd say, well, we done it wrong because we thought this was going to happen, and said this happened, or whatever. Because to me, apart from anything about pulling your dick or putting the bag over your head for getting it wrong, it actually makes things more interesting to say, well, I thought this was going to happen and that happened, so what should we have done? Did we get it right, or was our methods right, or fluke, or, that to me is what makes the sport interesting. So in trying to say that anyone who criticises a jockey is talking through the kick or anything like that. It's just shit. And if racing.com, I'm not calling it the Kremlin this time, I'm being fair and I'm being actually serious and objective, watching what they do. If they actually want to be respected by the real people who are involved in the sport, then they have to criticise jockeys and actually be prepared to tell it as it is. And even though the next bloke might be walking out of the jockey's room and be filthy with you, because it's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's a really vanilla coverage where they're not prepared.
He's reacted to it by the sound of it, like where the people who get on Narc Central 30 seconds after the race have done their money, saying what a slaughter. But we're having a look at the race post-race on the Monday or the Tuesday, doing the figures.
We're assuming he's having a crack at us.
We're assuming, we're just assuming. But they're putting us in the same boat as mug punters are on Twitter making those statements.
I just want to say this to David, because I actually quite like David as a person. I do admire his work ethic, and I agree with you, Dan, that he focuses on late sectionals too much, but we've all got opinions and we've all got them right and wrong too, but I do...
That's exactly the point, Ralph, before I want you to go on. That's exactly the point. I've got no problem with Gator's opinions, but he's trying to tell everyone else not to have one. Like, that is a ludicrous position to take.
Different opinions, imagine if we all agreed on everything.
Yeah.
It's great we have different opinions.
I have a lot to say about good rides. There are a lot of good rides. We did a whole piece last week about the responsibility of the jockey on the best horse in the race to make it a test.
Yeah.
And that's
and then the next day,
Popovich was example A. Craig Williams just owned the race and won it, to win that race. But anyway, look, good, bad, whatever, any punter that bets is entitled to have an opinion, and the jockeys have got to cop it sweet. Like, if I'm right or wrong, I'm happy to cop it sweet any criticism I get, and I'm happy to admit to my mistakes. And
but you don't hear of any criticism of jockeys. I was the only one who ever gave them on RSN.
Yeah.
Only one. And this is what I'm saying, that actually the industry is really immature. Because I think the way we look at racing, and any serious punter, it's almost like you're covering, let's say, Premier League or NFL, a sport on the other side of the world. You don't care if you upset someone, because it's up to you to get it right and finish in front.
Well, that was the example I was about to give, Ralph. If you look at less than 24 hours ago, we had the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Peyton Manning's on his second Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. Peyton Manning did very, very little yesterday and has been somewhat criticised. Like, they're all saying, well done, you've won, but it was your defence that won the game. It wasn't your starting quarterback. Because in the last quarter, Kubiak obviously said to him at the change of ends in three-quarter time, said, don't throw the ball from here on for the rest of the game. Just hand it off and let the defence take care of it and hold the game. They've been happy to, and they'll go back and interview him again next week, but they've been happy to criticise and say he really didn't do that much. It's no different to that sort of example where if they have done something wrong or something that we didn't expect, we're entitled to ask questions. We're putting our money in.
I think more to the point, Jumpy, the bloke from the other team, I don't know much about he copped it. He copped it left, right and centre, and he went to the press conference. Jockeys have got to be prepared to do that. When they've absolutely slaughtered one or whatever, or someone's got questions about it in the media, the jockey should front up and cop the questions. I know it's hard on a race day when it's impossible, but I just think
I'm sure you would have found. I reckon Craig would have. He owned up to it in the stewards on waxing on Friday night. He had a dead set mare.
Yeah.
You can see what he was trying to do, but it was just a mare of a ride, and all the poor punters are on it. But he's the sort of bloke who's on the front foot. If they probably gone and asked him, Craig, can we just? He says, yeah, that's it. I made a blue. I was trying to follow that horse. It went nowhere. I was trying to follow that horse. It went nowhere, and then I was out of the race.
So in closing, David, if you have a crack at someone, for your own credibility, say who you're having a crack at.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't say no names or narcs or anything like that. Call us narcs if you want. We're all big boys. But don't make it anonymous in who you're having a crack at, because then either we get paranoid or other people get paranoid, or you don't get credibility with the argument. I know Matt Stewart's big on it. He's done that to me in the paper. He did it to Greg Nichols the other day. Name the person you're having a crack at, and then we can all move on.
And I particularly hate the phrase mug punters. I mean, who does that describe? We need all the punters and everyone betting, and everyone that's having a bet is doing their best for one reason or another, and they don't deserve to be derided for for whatever reason, no matter what their position is.
Well, as you said, this isn't against David, but against anyone who says that from that position. You're getting paid by the industry whether you're right or wrong. Punters don't. They have to be right, or they lose.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Yeah. And the other quote that also gets me is this racing public. we're not worried about the punters so much. We're worried about we want to make this as good as we possibly can for the racing public. How many people go to the track that aren't there for either A, to bet, or B, they're just there for a social day out, have a drink with their mates, and there might be some horses running in the background? These racing public, I don't know who they are that they keep talking about in these sort of things.
Involved.
Well, where are they?
Well, no,
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually a heap. But the biggest percentage of the population don't care about racing.
Yes.
So I wouldn't want to be patronising towards people that do.
But they're not the racing public.
If you're getting paid by it. Anyway.
Rough. This is something that you've been saying for a while now, the past the post vision after they go pass through the line and around the bend.
It is gold. Now,
Yes.
it's where you can make some money. So we need a standard vision. And the funny thing is, the worse the meeting, in other words, the worse the amount of resources, the better the information you get.
Well, I haven't had the problem with you, with that you've had.
Yeah.
Because all the country meetings, I need to go to the racing.com so to get the 150 metres past the post. It's fantastic. And I'm going, what's Ralph on about?
They have one camera and it's...
that's it.
They do it with the jump outs.
Yeah.
They follow on for 800 metres after post, the jump outs.
Exactly.
It doesn't zoom in or anything, it just
Jumpy,
rolls.
speed pots, there's Dan, and here comes Ralphie, and then back to Jumpy, right? That's it. So extreme choice wins. Now, I would think it would be rather important for a very good 1,000 metre horse. That's all we can stand him at.
Yeah.
Well, we know he's real good. 1,000. Blue Diamond's coming out.
Yep.
I went to racing.com and 20 metres or 2 or 3 strides past the post, there's a dissolve into the ISO and all that. So Friday night as well, they panned back 2 owners, yipping and yapping. Now, their initial response, and this can be Sky Channel as well, I'm not being specific, can be owners are important, we need to involve them, we need to make it look good. All that's good, that's fine, no worries, and there are only a small percentage of punters like us who want to see the past the post vision. I accept that. So all you have to do is delay your shot by 10 seconds, which is 100 metres, that's all, 100 metres, and then roll in the owners, they can dry hump each other for all they like. We're happy, they're happy, providing it's consensual, and that's it.
The raw cut is what should be on the website. Not the director's footage of cutting there and zooming in after the race, just that raw cut from the main camera, that should be just transferred straight onto the website.
You've mentioned it before, Ralph, and it's not just with that, but if you watch basketball or cricket or NFL, they have one standard shot when the action is actually happening. Then after that, you can do whatever you like because it drove every one man during the spring when the Channel 7 were covering it, and they're underneath and they're running at you. You've got no idea of where exactly, because you get used to watching it a particular way. You watch cricket, you know you're going to be looking from behind the bowler's arm with the batsman facing you. Same with baseball, same with any other sport.
TV man than Kerry Packer, and with all the resources they threw at Channel 9, they never changed the camera over the bowler's arm.
And yet you can have all the other stuff. You can have spider cam, you can have drones, whatever you want to do. How good would a drone be following around these fields so you can watch from above, but after the race has happened? So you can look up, like we saw the helicopter shots during the spring. Everyone goes, oh yeah, like you saw him take the gap and you saw him position here. Like they can do all this sort of innovative stuff, which they're not doing.
Did you see the drone on the snowfield?
Yeah, I did. Well,
can we have the drone armed with a few missiles?
Yeah, we didn't we have sectionals on the TV over the weekend?
Yes, we had that.
Together?
They have filled it in.
I want to see that clear choice go like a Learjet from the 8 to the 6 with 10.3 or something. But anyway, that was something. It's progression. But now here's another one for you, racing.com.
But it's
please. I mean, it was just atrocious. On watching those replays on Saturday on racing.com was atrocious after the line. This is Caulfield.
What do you mean, the pan back?
Yeah. It was just obvious. I want to see the horses hitting the line late and how they're going 50 metres after the line. It was just
no one watches us, no one speaks about us, no one tweets to us, but isn't it funny how all these things actually get reacted to? Well, I'm sure this will be reacted to.
Couple of Mark Lambourne's pearls came into play on Caulfield on the weekend, boys.
Well, how long have you been watching the Punter Show? I drifted into it about 5 years ago, the Sydney boys, and I've learned that much out of it, it's not funny. So, Mark Lambourne's pearls that I want to just tip my hat to, I happened to find Golden Mean in race 1, even though I had Tough Host on top. Now, Tough Host came off a fast run Moonee Valley mile up to 2,000. I remember Mark saying about 3 or 4 years ago, and I just went, oh wow, that's good. So in other words, the theory is, if you're going flat out over a mile, you have to then change your tempo and build your stamina. So you first go at 2,000 from the fast mile. It's a risk, and it's you know, I probably would have been with it if I hadn't remembered that pearl. It was just one of those beauties.
Yeah, well, that's the tough part about racing, Ralph, because that pearl's one that I follow religiously. I wrote him a set that I can't not mark Tuffo's favourite. I have to mark it on top. I have to back it. I wound the bet back as far as I could.
Yeah.
Given to what price I thought it would get to, because it was fast around 1,600 to a mile that was going to be at a questionable tempo.
Yeah.
It's hard not to, when a horse is rated that far ahead of the field, it's hard not to fall into it.
It is. They have it all the time.
You can just, and then as the race has been round,
how far do you peel it back?
The other funny thing was, because it was when I remembered it, and then I thought, because I tumbled into Golden Main on Boxing Day after a fast run mile.
It was a fast run 1,800 to come from.
No, at Moonee Valley when it won.
Right, yeah.
And then they went back and it over-raced and exactly that. So why I liked it in the end was exactly that.
So it went Moonee Valley to the Caulfield race that like a day one.
Yeah,
like a day.
Yeah.
Then it went to.
So went even slow.
Went to 2,000 in the slow race that Ollie won from the front on second.
Yeah, it was buy there, had a buy.
Yeah, it was a big mid race. But anyway, that was one of them. So it's a beauty. So thank you, Mark. And the second one was Black Jag winning, who I didn't have in a fit. So there's one I didn't have.
Another second pot.
And you too, yeah. So I'm looking at it thinking, Sydney, Gold Coast, back here. No, I just can't. And one of the boys said, you mentioned it after the first up one, and I went, like, when it ran at Sandown first up, showed blistering speed. And remember, Mark, we've actually been on this on Twitter, Mark's pearl about what a horse brings to the table first up pretty much tells you what it's going to do for the campaign. So even though it had that dip, it sort of had that mark as saying, I'm in for a good campaign. And he went super on Saturday to be able to sustain that speed.
Well, Danger should have beat him, but Danger is just a cat, wouldn't go past him, which is, he gave himself up for all time, Danger did.
Yeah.
So. I'll add a third one to it, Ralphie. I like the Moonee Valley race that Runsardi won, but Shakespearean last started the dominant favourite in that race.
Oh, yeah.
And the SP profile should have tipped me into backing her. I didn't like the way she travelled at Moonee Valley. That's why I didn't back her. But in hindsight, it's a filthy mistake. So
actually, that race, because you're onto this too, the all important cover that isn't that important. But with Trey Vinder and Shakespeare and Lass, I think they're perfect horses who need cover, providing the horses giving them cover are going quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, so instead of just going reef, when they do that, well, they've got no hope. But if they actually relax going fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's what
happened on Saturday.
That's what happened on Saturday.
That's 1,000 metre horses for 1,000 metre races. That's another one of Mark's pearls. And I'll add one here for the viewers. The 1,000 metre start at Caulfield, particularly when the rail's out, you just want to find the wide gates. The inside gates, unless you can lead from the inside gate uncontested, the inside gates are absolute poison there. And that finish on Saturday was gates 6, 8 and 10. And the inside 5 gates all finished at the back of the field.
Yes.
And they were well fancied.
So a bit of under the Louvre about Rildas.
Yeah, there is. I found him on Saturday. He was very likely to get outside the elastic band in that race. That's exactly what happened.
No, so what I'm saying is just that extra 100 in an Oakley plate with no weight on its back, like under Ludenley pinch. He's got to be some sort of blowout.
Absolutely, he's a much better chance in that kind of race.
Yeah,
a fast run 1100 than he was in that race on Saturday at 1,000.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's a really interesting point because Reldas has really got no 1,000 metre form. But he's deadly at 9.55 at Moonee Valley, which just shows you the subtleties of this. The 9.55s at Moonee Valley are not like 1,000 metre races. They're more like 1100s because they go flat out from the start, and a lot of the speedsters completely collapse.
Yes.
And the
closes there.
Closes
the
there.
last 100.
And it doesn't happen as much in 1,000 metre races. It's a tricky thing. So
back onto our crusade boys, the Cranbourne jump outs. Atmospherical.
Well, even before that, we spoke about it at length last Tuesday and discussed the maiden in the Metropolitan race on Wednesday. And I had Campanula on top, and I'm sitting there, shouldn't I, each way, what do I do here? And I said, no, we said we're going to stay out, so I stayed out. So it's It's just Learjet, the winner. It's gone like a group. Mick Kent first starter from Cranbourne. The next day, Pakenham, Mick Kent first starter, Robbie Lang first starter in the maiden. Yeah. Cornell did it, both from the unseen. This is 2 days. It's just 2 in 2 days.
Friday night at Moonee Valley, Robbie Griffiths first starter.
Yeah.
If it was called, what was it called? I can't think of it, Salida or something. Sarita or something.
So just before we move on from Wednesday to get that atmospherical, because we're talking about that part, how the fuck was that a good 4 to slow 5? Have you seen the times out of Wednesday?
I have. I can't
haven't had
remember.
the tracks.
The tracks were fine. The track was fine. I mean, I just in my database, I just put it in as a 3.5. You know what I mean? Like a good track.
On Wednesday? Really?
Unless I'm thinking of the wrong meeting. I've done so many in the last week.
And all that.
I haven't had it come through.
No, well, maybe I shouldn't
It hasn't
talk.
come through.
No.
Well, the track raced well.
No, it raced well, but it raced a lot slower. And
Okay.
Yeah, that's. I mean, given the.
I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, anyway, so back to atmospherical. So, I think you've mentioned before that the robots don't really look at jump outs anyway.
No, that's right.
They just take it as it is, right?
Yeah.
So atmospherical goes like a jet, one of the jump outs. Back from what was it meant to be, 14s to 4s or 350 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because of the jump out.
That's right. Solely.
Solely.
I would contend that it was back because of the stable change. I would think.
Sorry, the double shot.
Yeah.
The jump out, knowing that it's done that with Robert Smurden,
Yeah.
and then the respect for Robert Smurden, and boom, right? But what that did was create liquidity, it created interest, it got people going in the early markets, and then when there was lots of high 3s available, you knew it's probably not today. It's probably not today, and that ultimately we knew it was the best horse in the race. How close it was going to be to its best? When you, in the end, as you said, low draws and 1,000-metre horses ran the. But what it did, it got liquidity. Here's the point, Cranbourne trainers. It's not always the greatest lead, and the market will get it wrong too.
Mm.
So, but all it does, it gets people betting.
Well, you would assume Mick Kent horses would be, the way he trains, stays, gets deep into preps. They'd be hitting the line something like what we see at Caulfield with Kira Ma. You don't get a big guy, but they're there and they're just chugging along, and then there's just some bit of late strength, and you just got to make your own judgment. They're not out winning trials by 6 or 8 lengths anyway.
Well, if the Cranbourne trainers want to hide one in the jump out, I'm happy to ride.
Mate, Love Days had 3 jump outs and got beaten 20 lengths in all of them.
Yeah.
And then but as soon as the price went up at Warrnambool, it was $6 into $2.50 straight away. And then because the robots don't back the jump, don't watch the jump outs, it was $2.50 back to $5.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just.
But I underline, I don't blame the Cranbourne trainers. I blame RVL for not enforcing a policy that should be for punters. It's that simple.
Give us the information, we'll deal with it.
And we'll fuck it up too.
Yeah, and it hasn't made any effect in the city, so I'm not sure what they're worried about. Dan Zephyr, boys, gutbuster, or not a gutbuster?
Well, we've got a nice soft time of it. That's probably he's on to a 7-day backup. You've got a very gentle tempo to help him out coming off the. But if you believe what your eyes saw at Flemington, 3 wide there, and then just, finishing with the margins and everything. Just for. My starting point's a good starting point for people if they're starting out doing the form. 3 principles, or 3 things that I look for when I first start is fit, forward, raced well last start. Now, if you start with those 3, there's so much other complexities and variables, but if you start there, when you're doing the form, you'll back a lot of winners and you'll eliminate a lot of the things that you always tell you running on from the back. But, so he's one where, if you believe what you saw at Flemington, he was a fantastic winner.
So we should throw one more in, and that is, and raced recently.
Raced well last start or raced well recently.
No, because underestimation.
36 days.
Didn't cut.
Yeah.
Didn't like that, 36 days.
That's the stable though. That's that stable. Honestly, they just tie me in knots. How did it do what it did at Flemington?
So horses overcome gutbusters with slow tempos.
Correct.
I'd never go in Mark's territory, but I reckon that's a nice little. If I can pass it over, that is because, and the most famous one of all time recently was Prince of Penzance.
Yeah, my view on that race is that Dan Zephyr ran his race again, like everything you said, fit, forward, 7-day back up. He just ran his race, and he probably.
Who had the best time going into that race though? The way you read it. Who had the best time?
I know. I backed a few horses in that race.
Yeah, Mighty Light.
Well, no, absolutely. Mighty Like is a horse I found in the previous start.
Yeah.
He's hard to trust, right? But
It wasn't his fault.
if you just no, it is to get a
Keep
opportunity.
going. Keep going.
Well,
Finish your point.
it wasn't his fault. It was a double X excuse run, you know. I watched Froggy and I said, "What's he doing there, Froggy?"
That's all.
And then he actually asked for it. He asked for an effort. I know I've got to help. He asked for an effort of 150 from home. Was when he actually asked it to go.
So Froggy got a nice weekend here. He rode 2 horses that were the best horses in the race and got beaten on both of them. Now that was Mighty Like and Written Up and Froggy. The reason is, and I'm sorry, I hope this is okay and not upsetting David Gately.
It will be.
But Froggy, the simple reality was because you rode for position instead of pace. Now Written Up was in the sale quality and then they just walked, and I actually thought I saw Daniel Moore just relieve himself with joy. Just he got the softest lead of all time on Crony, and well played to him for doing it. And the same with Mighty Like. So Dan Zephyrs walked. Mighty Like's gone off a fast run race, but we came from behind. Yeah, we came from behind in a fast race. So people are starting to say, well, where's Craig Newitt got to? Well, my simple reaction is, we're only outside the camper. I don't know the bloke. I would say he's lost what made him good, and that is aggression.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that'd be fair.
Yeah,
the
really
Whipple would have a lot to do with it.
Well, I went to sale on Sunday, and I've always kept my eyes when I could see the horses in the yard to see if anyone's wearing spurs. Another Mark Pearl.
Oh yeah.
Because not only it's a signal of intent.
Yep.
Froggy came past, no spurs. Don't know whether it was a weight thing, not sure, but it's the signal.
One Written Up.
No, this was I can't remember what race it was on Sunday when I was working away down there, but it's just a signal that if that's the case, well, maybe he isn't really getting into him the way that he was, and it does look, the stats are sort of telling you that he's just not riding the same as what he was 6-8 months ago.
So I think he's got to go back to if you're erring on the side of just going forward, erring on the side of doing it too much, because you can win more races. Potsy said this 2 weeks ago. You can win more races going forward than
Than trying to
than being too passive.
Well, if Craig watches the show, and the go forward, Craig, is not out of the barriers. It's build your momentum and take your time getting there. Don't interrupt the horse's momentum. That's Craig Newitt's one of these jockeys that is either switch on or off, and you're better off being more neutral on horses and let the horse get into a rhythm.
But hang on.
I mean, I'm not a rider, so people are going to bag me, but I watch enough races to see the best jockeys and the jockeys with the best tactical sense.
Yeah.
Don't rush horses.
But if you don't go back, how can you then flash home and create the flashing light run?
You can't get the best extras. But in the same, and it's a real pertinent point here, because after I mentioned something on Twitter about Narc Central about Written Up, stable said to go back. That's how the stable wants them ridden and all that. And, so I take that on board. But then the very next race, they interview Enver Jusovic, I hope I pronounced that right, pre-race. We want to go back on this horse. The boy Wonder B. Allen gets on and just lets him go there. Yep. Didn't touch him. He just let him go.
Wasn't a great rock. Like, it was just.
So he's sitting there, second with no cover, no all important cover. The horse is just the happiest horse in the world.
Just pissed him.
Pissed him.
He had a good week, B. Allen. He outpunched over 2,500, a margin trader. He rode his provincial double on Saturday, and everyone go and get the video of Peppermint Lane out.
Yeah.
It was just a cracking ride from a kid. His low draw began first out, but they've been riding it quiet, the new camp, so he didn't restrain, just let it drift back, and there was plenty, I don't know whether he did his form or not, there was plenty of speed in the race. Anyway, he's last on the fence. Blended through as you do late in the day at Bendigo to get to the outside, peeled the outside, and he's got it to run the best sections. It just took off when he went for it at the 250 and come home like a Learjet. Jeez, it was a good ride. Like, he's just flying, that kid.
And especially going to it when he probably should be riding in town at this time of year.
He would have ridden Florell Friday night when he lost the ride on it because he's not riding in town yet.
But how big a free kick is it to have him go to the provincial meeting on a Saturday?
Yeah. And he had 12 rode at 12 trials yesterday. I rode 12 trials at Cranbourne. Smurden, Henry Dwyer, Kira Murray rode one for us. So I mean, if those guys are putting him on trials, just stick with him. Especially while he's got 2 kilos and he's riding in the bush.
So we're not putting any pressure on him, but he's definitely the best kid since Damien Oliver and Darren Gouchy combined. We're not putting any pressure on him.
Well, that's a good look back at the last week and Caulfield and everything else. So let's cut it there, boys, and we'll come back for part 2.
All right. Well, we'll have a 30-minute gap and we'll be back.